Past the secretary who gives you the business about the boss is busy, and once you've gotten past her, what is your technique for generating the dollars to close some of the ideas that you're selling?
Getting past the secretary, you don't always get past her. But you call on her and you introduce yourself and you say you have something you think will be of interest, and maybe she may call, and maybe he'll see you and maybe he won't. If you don't get any farther than that, just leave a card and say, if you don't mind, I'd like to call again, and maybe at a more appropriate time. And when you get back to your office, just drop them a little note and just sort of stay in touch. I'm sorry I called at an inappropriate moment. If you don't mind, I plan on stopping by next time I'm in your neighborhood, or whatever you want to say, put it in your own words. If you do get in, he may let you in just to be polite. He doesn't want to see you, doesn't want to be bothered, doesn't have time, doesn't want life insurance, he's up to his ears. But because he's selling something too, everybody in the world is selling something. You know, nothing happens till someone makes a sale. And so just out of courtesy, maybe he'll let you in. He may have a lot of men out on the road selling something. So he'll let you in, just long enough he wants to get rid of you. And it's up to you at that point. Now, if this were my call, I would try to have learned something about the man before I went calling. What it is that I should be talking about. And when I get in, may I show you something? And I've got my tax case. May I show you something? Maybe you remember Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Let me show you what happened to his estate. He'll remember the name. But when I flip the cover open, he sees all the money. He thinks I'm crazy. All that money, carrying around all that money. I said, yes, this is what I sell. Discounted dollars. Dollars are pennies apiece. Maybe you're going to need some. Let me show you why. Look what happened to the estate of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had access to the best guidance in the world. Yet look what happened. There wasn't enough liquidity to pay what had to be paid. And that's no exception. Let me show you others. And I'll try to show him the estates of people that are in the same category as I think he is. And what I've tried to do is disturb him. I have an idea. Let me come back with something which I think will be of interest to you. And you know, I'm easing my way out. And all I need now is some basic information. I assume you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s. And I'll get just enough basic information on him. Let me come back with something which I think will be of interest. And he'll, 9 times out of 10, if you've gotten in to see him, he'll let you come back. He'll let you come back, and when you come back with something that you think will be of interest. It's this illustration. It's an illustration that's going to deliver a great big bundle of money. And you're going to show him why he's going to need the great big bundle of money. And your whole sale is based around that. It isn't something for nothing. It's simply somewhere down the road there's a problem. There's a price tag on it. Somebody has to pay it. Doesn't have to buy life insurance. It's simply somebody has to pay it. I never found a substitute for dollars. You got to pay it with dollars. My dollars are discounted dollars. Why don't you use mine? You're a good businessman, interested in making money, saving money. Why don't you use my dollars? They cost pennies apiece. So if I get that far, I ask him, let me come back with something which I think will be of interest. And the odds are you're on your way to making a sale.
Ben, Buddy's Ace, Burlington, Vermont. You mentioned a little while ago that you came up with something new and you like to go back to your clients with something new, and you mentioned whole life additions, but you didn't explain whole life additions, and I hope we don't miss a bet.
Well, whole life additions are really very simple. It's just an option that I think probably most companies have. You have, if it's a participating company, it pays a dividend. You can use the dividend to reduce the premium. If I had a $1,000 premium, or let's say I had a $3,000 premium, and I had a $500 dividend, I can use my dividend to reduce my premium. Now I saved $500. Or I can convert it to paid-up additions. Probably will be 3 for 1. Now what I've done is add $1,500 to my policy. Or I can use it for whole life additions. $500 may buy $25,000 of new insurance on a whole life plan. So I've added $25,000 to my policy. So whole life additions will make your policy so much bigger, so much faster, that you can't do it any other way. A dividend simply reduces the premium or adds a paid-up addition. But used for a whole life addition, gee, you may suddenly add a huge block of money to the basic block of life insurance, and the man's insured for much more than he planned on.
Yeah, Ben, Beverly Drury from Los Angeles, California. I know that you use bankers as a center of influence. In the beginning, Ben, in the very beginning.
That knows someone about that company. Go talk to him about that company. Get this directory of industry. It's a gold mine. It's an entree. I get the directory of industry, and then I pick out certain cases, and I get Dun & Bradstreet reports, and I find out what the problems are, I think the problems are in the company, and then I begin making the calls. And then I begin stubbing my toe. But like I said in the beginning, I don't know an easy way. I don't think there is an easy way. If you really believe in what you're doing, and what you're doing is helping people help themselves, you really are. When you're creating, I don't know how in the world we can create. Do you? How can you create? But a life insurance contract creates. It says we promise to pay immediately upon proof of death. Tell me how long you're going to live. A year, 2, 10, 20? I don't know either. But we create a bundle of money. That's what men are working for, money. We create a bundle of money. We put it in escrow today. It's backed up by the reserves of the companies. We put it in escrow today. It's there today to pay the problems that may walk in tomorrow. And tomorrow can be any time. Next week, next month, next year. No one has a lease on life. So in the beginning, we create. And then, you know, what we do in the end, we can serve. People, the hardest thing in the world for people to do, you know what it is? Is to save money. I don't care how much money a man makes. He never has any. Makes a little more, so he spends a little more. Makes a little more, so he pays a little more tax. Because he made a little more, he wants to live a little better. So he spends a little more. He never has any extra money. And I say to people, put me on your payroll. Put me on your payroll. You know what? I work for, give me a nickel out of the dollar. Give me a dime out of the dollar. Give me something out of the dollar. Give me a nickel. After a while, you'll have a lot of nickels. Give me a dime. After a while, you'll have a lot of dimes. You know, savings requires system. You've got to build system into savings or there won't be any savings. Statistics show that people save money for a little while. Statistics show a savings account, the average, will last about 3 years. Then you take it out and you spend it and it's gone. And then because it's gone, maybe you start over. And also we grow a little older along the way. And pretty soon, you know, a week's gone, a month's gone, a year's gone. You were 30, now you're 40, now you're 50, now you're 60. Now you're getting to be an old man, and you never saved any money. Not because you didn't make money, made money all your life. Because you didn't save some systematically. And a premium statement that a company sends you every month, every quarter, periodically creates system. System, it's $100 a month. They send you a premium statement requires $100 a month. Pretty soon you're sending out $100 every month, every month, every month. You'd be amazed after a while you've accumulated some money. I have people and you have people that don't know how much equity they have in their life insurance. They've never paid any attention to it. This way you'll help people accumulate some cash. There if you need it today. It's there if you need it for an emergency, for an opportunity. It's the cash value today. It's the face value tomorrow. The face value is in escrow. The cash value is today. Today. So that what you're doing is good. It's helping a lot of people help themselves. I don't know of an easy way to do it. People don't have extra money. So you keep moving. I won't say you keep pushing people. They don't like to be pushed. But you keep moving on implied consent. Man needs money. Man needs money. Needs money. Needs money so his family can go on living. They have a right to go on living. Needs money. They shouldn't live on charity, on welfare, on in-laws, on outlaws. They have a right to go on living, don't they, huh? Have a right to go on living. Tell me what you'll substitute for money. After all, the money's gone. And what will you substitute for it? You know, funny thing, but in all the people in the room, I'll bet a nickel. I never bet more than a nickel, but I bet a nickel. Most of your income is earned income, not investment income. Most of your income is earned income. You ever stop to think when you stop, it stops? You ever stop to think about that? It's earned income. When you stop, it stops. It stops. The paychecks won't continue coming. Not unless you set up something beforehand that took a part of what you earned and set it aside for tomorrow. And so we do a lot of good for a lot of people. What we're doing is very worthwhile. But you will stub your toe. But don't be afraid to stub your toe. You make progress doing that too.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, my name is Bob Coyle from Albany, New York, and I find it important to work hard, to do a good job selling, and to grow in selling. I also find it very important to do a good job at home and spend adequate time with my family, and trying to achieve a proper balance is very difficult. And when you were younger, when your boys were just growing up, how did you find the balance that was right for you? This is important to me, and I'd like to hear your comments.
Well, that's a very, very difficult question for me to give you a good answer. I don't know where you draw the line. A man's family is very important. That's what you live for. That's what you work for. That's what everything's for. And yet, a man's work is equally important. In our type of work, you know, we have to sort of adapt ourselves to the job. And I've got to be willing to see people when they're willing to see me. When someone tells me, come at 6 o'clock after dinner, well, I don't do that now. Believe me, I used to do a lot of that. I would get home at 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock. I don't know of an easy way. And even now, I don't get home when I should get home. I get home about 7 o'clock. And then we have dinner, and I go back to the den, and I work about 2 hours. Every night getting ready for tomorrow, every night reading what I have to read, so not to be smart, just to be knowledgeable, just to stay abreast, just to know what it is you're talking about, just to make this life insurance contract a simple bundle of money, just a little bundle of money. That's all it is. And to stay away from all the things that confuse people. The family, yes, the family's important. Sure, the family's important. And I suppose you have to sort of, in your mind, make a decision that you'll give as much time as you can to each one. That's a rough question, and I know it's very real. I know it's real. But if you're going to be a life insurance representative, you don't punch a clock. I can't come to work at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning and punch out at 5 o'clock and call it quits. I can't do that. By the same token, boy, when I spend the extra 3 or 4 hours that's required I'm helping keep families together, too. And I'm building continuity into companies that maybe would go down the drain. I can build continuity into a man's dreaming, into a man's planning. I can make sure the man walks out, enough money walks in, this company will continue. And all the people that were employed in that company will continue being employed in that company. I can do a lot of good for a lot of people. See, when you get to a question like that, it's hard to answer. Sure, you love your family, and your boys and your girls and your wife. They have a right to your time too. And I don't really have a good answer. I don't know how to do what I'm doing part way. I don't think I can. I just don't think I can.
Ben, you've done something right. Both the boys are in the business. How about this question over here, this gentleman here?
Murray Brown from Australia, Ben. How much work do you do with the client's advisors after the point of sale? Once you've sold the case, how much work distributing where the insurance will go, etc., do you do on that case?
I think what you're asking me is what I do after I've made the sale. Making the sale will vest ownership of the contract where I think it should be, and will make the proceeds payable where I think they should go. Now, what I do beyond that, if he has other coverage, with me or with other companies, I'll make a study of that. No, I don't get he and his attorney together to redraft the will or to set up a trust instrument or to get together with the auditor. I will do that, but you know very little of that is done. That isn't my work. You see, with all due respect to the auditor and the lawyer, I'm going to create something. The auditor is just going to count up how much it's going to be. The lawyer is just going to distribute it and say, this goes here and this goes here. But you're the fellow that's going to make sure there's going to be something there to distribute. And so my job, and your job, is just to make sure there's going to be something there. I can underwrite tomorrow. You can underwrite tomorrow. You can be sure. The man walks out, money walked in. Money means self-respect. Money means continuity for the man's family. You know, I wrote a case a long time ago where a man bought an annuity for his wife, and he was very well-to-do. He had plenty of other assets, but he wanted to make sure that his wife would never be dependent on his children. He bought an annuity for his wife, and he gave me $300,000 and a lump sum. He's died a long time ago. We paid his widow $3,000 a month for many, 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 many years. And you know, it was so wonderful. She had two children. She never had to go to them and ask for anything. Never had to ask for anything. She could always go to them and bring something to them. Don't you think it was better that way? And you know what happened to the business? When the man died, business kind of went downhill. The good thing, she had the annuity. And the annuity took care of her forever. One thing about an income, keep in mind an income, an annuity income, is something, once it starts, it never stops. It's for as long as you live. And keep in mind, let's take this $100,000 policy that costs $4,000 a year. And if you create something where that $100,000, and I set up a graph, and I show that $100,000 at interest in this graph, and it'll earn $6,000 a year forever for his wife. The mailman's going to bring her $500 a month. Once it starts, it never stops. And as long as she lives, she's going to get that at the end of the road. The children are still going to get the $100,000. She'll probably get back more in interest than he paid in premiums.
Clark Langwell from Baltimore, Maryland. Ben, I think one of the most painful things in the business is to have had some policy written for about a year, and you get the phone call or you get the policy back in the mail, and the fellow doesn't want it, or he reconsidered, or he's got himself into a financial obligation that he can't get out of, and he has to retire his policy. First of all, I'm sure we've all experienced that. Could you tell me what you do to combat that? And secondly of all, tell us all a little bit about what your lapse ratio is like. Over.
We are talking about premium dollars, doesn't have the money to pay the premiums. And that can be very real. He doesn't have the money to pay the premiums because he has a lot of other things that apparently have to come first. Dying isn't one of them. That can be tomorrow. And I'd let him know that. I'm going through that right now with a case. Well, that's exactly what happened on a case. He didn't pay the premiums. He let the contract lapse. And then he sent the premium in, and of course it was too late, and we wanted evidence of health, and he was examined, and we found that he had cancer. And so, I don't have a good answer for you either, except that I'd go back and pinpoint the problem. The man does have a problem. Maybe we have to resort to term insurance. Maybe we even have to borrow some money somewhere for a little while to buy a year's time to pay some premiums. But I would stay with that case. Wouldn't make me happy to see the contracts go off the books, but I would stay with the case, and I would try very hard to get the contracts back on the books eventually, sooner the better.
Thank you, Ben. Way back on this corner.
Ben, this is Al Williams from Virginia Beach, Virginia. What advice could you give, say, a young man fairly new in the business is writing $3 or $4 million a year to go to $8 or $10 million?
A young man writing $3 or $4 million's got a problem, Ben. He'd like to know how he gets up to 8 or 9.
Well, the first thing you said, 3 or 4 million. If my quota for the year were 3 million, I would know it was 3 million. If it was 4, I know it was 4. I would be very definite, very definitive in what it is I was going to do. Now, if I wanted to write 7 or 8 or 10, I think I'm being very, very unrealistic. Because I don't think you can hurdle that period of time that goes between writing 3 million a year and 7 or 8 million a year overnight. I just don't think you can. So you're going to be talking with people that will need to buy much bigger blocks of life insurance. That means you yourself maybe have to reevaluate your own program, where you are. Have you really underwritten tomorrow for yourself? I do think that through study you can find places to apply life insurance so you'll be writing larger cases, but I don't think you'll do it overnight. I think what you'll find, if you're writing 100 cases a year, and if it's $4 million, then it's an average of $40,000 a year, you might build those cases on up, where maybe there'll be $60,000 a year, but I don't think you can build them on up to where suddenly you're writing $10 million a year. It didn't work that way for me. It took a long while to get. It took a long while to get from where I was to where I am. I couldn't do it overnight. My cases had to become bigger. I have to watch now that I don't write too few cases. The cases are so large, they require too much time. And that you find you're spending so much time trying to put a case together that you forgot to make the calls. And when you forget to make the calls, you're not prospecting. When you're not prospecting, boy, you're in trouble. Boy, how you're in trouble. You know what we do now with a big case? We don't count it. We don't count it. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I can control the little cases. I can't control the big cases. Only the good Lord and the underwriting committee control the big cases.
That's quite a partnership. How about this gentleman in the red shirt center? You've been there quite a while, sir.
Ben, my name's Ken Kipping. I'm from Australia. Could you tell us if you sell much term insurance and how you would approach a sale on wife insurance and how you would approach a sale on child insurance, please.
Do I sell much term insurance? Yes, I do. I would say 20 to 25% of what we write is term insurance. Do I write wife insurance? The answer is no, I don't. Tell you why I don't? Maybe I'm scared. Maybe I've written all I think he's going to buy. But whatever the reason, I don't write wife insurance. Rarely. Once in a blue moon do I write wife insurance. When my wife passed away, I didn't begin to have enough insurance on her to pay what had to be paid. And I'm supposed to be an insurance representative. Not only that, but I find that men somehow begin to think with their emotions when it comes to wife insurance. Don't want to even think about my wife dying. I don't want that kind of money. And so, for whatever the reason, I don't seem to write much wife insurance. I will say that I'm kind of getting over the hurdle a little bit now. Ethel has some.
Did she say she's paying her own premiums, too?
But in regard to child insurance, yes, I do. Yes, I do. But on child insurance, I stay away from whole life. See, again, they tend to resist the thought of, I don't want money if my little boy passes away or my little girl. I don't want that kind of money. I don't even want to think about that. Don't talk to me about that. And so, but you're going to leave part of what you leave to your children, aren't you? To your grandchildren, aren't you? So let's do it this way. And you know, we have the right to make a gift of up to so much money. It's $3,000 each year to your grandson, to your granddaughter, to your boy, to your girl, without paying any tax. The other way around, they're going to get part of your money, not until it goes through the tax wringer. So I do have policies for children and grandchildren. They're built around $3,000 premiums and $6,000 premiums. And that's basically the exclusions. And I rarely get above that unless I'm really getting into something for a youngster that's a little bit older for another purpose. So the answer to your question is on term insurance, yes, but all my term converts, 99% of my term converts to whole life. And on the children, I write endowments. Endowments. They're all endowments. Never a short-term endowment, a long-term endowment. A $3,000 premium buys a $300,000 endowment. Endowment at 65. $6,000 premium buys $600,000. Endowment at 65. And show at the end of 15 years, 20 years, everything you piled in is still there. Everything you paid in is still there. If they want some money for school, for whatever they need it for, money's there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ben. This gentleman right here.
Thank you. Ben, Peter Prince from Geelong, Australia. You've contacted the client. He's interested. He agrees with everything you say, but finally says, I refer you to my accountant. You go to the accountant, and the accountant says either no way or he doesn't agree with the figures that you've proposed. How do you handle that, Ben, please?
How do I account for it when the accountant, he unloads you on the accountant, and the accountant says, no way? I must assume when you made your call, you made your presentation, that there was a need for what you were presenting. There was a definite need for a block of money for tomorrow. You know, you might ask the accountant how he'll pay it. Ask him, frankly, how do you propose to pay this? It has to be paid. Are you going to pay it for? You're going to take it from? You're going to pay it for? You're going to take it from? How are you going to pay it? And you know, nothing else works. Tell the auditor you're going to write a letter and just put it in the file. You've been maybe calling on this man, and you do have a file. You're just going to put it in your file. on such and such a date you made a proposal, and the auditor said, no way. And then you may already have some insurance on the man. Now, maybe you're using a little aggression here, I don't know, but you'll make the auditor maybe think a little bit, because the auditor isn't going to pay the bills, he's just going to figure them out. You're the man that's going to pay them. This is a case that he's simply saying no at the moment. That's all he did when he sent you to the auditor. He just unloaded you on the auditor. And here again, on the age change, when the rates are going to change, you go back. Now you have a reason for going back. And the rates are going to go up. And if we do it now, my rates still hold true. If you don't do it by June the 30th, you're in another age bracket. The rates go up, they never come down. Let me show you how much that's going to cost you. If you don't think it's going to cost you something, just take the difference in premium and run it for the number of years for life expectancy for the man. See how much more it's going to cost him. You know how much? It probably amounts to a whole year's premium. Why do you want to throw away a whole year's premium? Tell me why. See, I don't there have another good answer for you, except I don't know an easy way to do what we're doing. We work at it.
Stay at the mics, and we're going to get to your questions, but we wanted to try a little new approach of some quickies. I have a young fellow in my office who saves up every objection he gets on a sale, and he waits till Ben comes visiting, and then he throws them all at Ben. I thought maybe some of you have heard some of these objections. Let's see how Ben would handle an objection. I'll be the client. I tell you, Ben, I don't need any insurance. I got plenty of cash, stocks, and bonds. I'm liquid. I got money to pay my taxes.
Sure, but you're interested in making money, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well, you know, why should you use 100-cent dollars to pay what has to be paid if you can use 4-cent dollars?
I don't know.
Next case.
Frank, you'd have been tougher than that, wouldn't you?
I said they were going to be quickies. You know, I'll be here all night. All right, next one. I don't want to make my kids rich.
You don't want to make your kids rich. Well, then what do you want to do? Leave it all to charity?
That's as quick as we're going to get. Now, I don't want to get a dialogue here. You know, I'm an easy sale. Ben, I understand there's a law here that says I can pay this tax in installments, and my accountant says I don't need any insurance because we'll just pay the tax in installments over a period of time.
Yes, I know you can. You can pay the tax in installments, but you pay the interest on the tax until you pay the tax. And the interest on the tax is more than the premium on the policy.
You know, Ben, I got a good business here. It's a big business. If I die, my family can sell it and they'll get plenty of money.
Fine, you build a beautiful business here, but don't you also want to build continuity? Don't you want it to continue? And you know, Marsh, the day you walk out, Uncle Sam's going to walk in, probably take all the capital out of your company. Now, if you want your business to continue, I must assume you do, because a lot of people are depending on you and your business. Can your family run your company without capital?
No, I don't suppose they can.
Well, then, you know, let me pay the tax on your estate, and let's continue what you spent all your life putting together. We'll keep together what you've spent all these years putting together. We'll build continuity into your company.
Tell you, Ben, your proposition sounds pretty good, but I really don't have any money for the premium.
Well, you know, Marsh, I never found a man that had any money. It's a question of priority. What should come first and what should come second? There's never any extra money. But if there is something that has to be paid, then you either pay it with 100-cent dollars or you pay it with discounted dollars. Or they liquidate. They take apart. They undo everything you spent your life doing. You do have a choice. They won't.
Ben, Marshall and I have been partners for years. Why do you think we should have partnership insurance?
Because two men in a partnership They're like two men on a seesaw. They balance each other. One gets off, the other one falls off. You can't seesaw alone. But she's entitled to half of everything. You've got to go out and find a man. Maybe he was your outside man, your salesman. You've got to go out and find a man, train a man, pay a man to do what he's been doing. And yet you still got to keep her in mind. She owns half your company. You're going to wind up doing maybe all the work, but it's half hers. When you get home some night and you're real tired, you'll think to yourself, gee, what am I beating my brains out for? You know, half of it's going down the drain. It's only half mine, it's half hers. I'm going to buy her interest out and see what I can get it for. You know what? I'm going to make sure the day he walks out, enough money walks in, she can get her money out. You know,
Very good.
You'll be happy, she'll be happy.
Right. Thank you very much. Way, this gentleman, front row here.
Ben, Jerry Rosenbaum, Syracuse, New York. I've heard most of your cassettes and I've read most of your books, and I've always been curious. Since you're in the corporate market, I've never heard you talk about the pension plans, disability income, sick pay, group insurance. How do you handle those subjects, or do you work with someone that does handle those?
No, I really don't. I've been staying away from them. I was in group insurance a good many years ago. Got real excited about it. I went down, Stan, I saw our people down home office, and they got me all excited, and I thought, boy, I'll go out and write some group insurance, and I did. And I wrote a good many blocks of group insurance. Then, you know, every doggone year, when the thing came up for renewal, it went up. And I had to go back and explain to them why it went up. And pretty soon I thought to myself, that's not for me. I can spend my time doing something else. On pension plans, that's another area that's very sophisticated. And I do think that people ought to be knowledgeable and know what they're doing. And I'll profess that I don't know enough about pension plans to work with pension plans. Now, you want to work with pension plans? There's your man sitting over there. I don't know anything about pension plans, and I haven't been working with them. Possibly Rich and Marv may get into this type of work. It's sort of exciting to them. But I'm not. I'm going to spend my time doing what I know how to do. And I know how to create a package that in turn will create a bundle of money that you're going to need. I know you're going to need it because you're going to get old and gray. And if you don't get old and gray, your wife, who will then be your widow, she's going to need it. And if it isn't used for that, it'll be used to keep the tax collector off your back. In this country, we have the right to learn. We have the right to earn. We don't have the right to transfer. They call that the inheritance tax. Why don't you let me pay it for you? Somebody has to pay it. And I've got a discounted $1. A tax $3. I'll keep together what you spent all your life putting together.
Please stop your machine at this point and turn your cassette over for side 2.
Ben, I'm Dean Hyatt from Pasadena, California. You talked about the importance of making calls, and surely we understand that. You talked about how you made a cold call, but is it your regular practice to make a personal cold call, or do you usually try to get an appointment by telephone or some other means first?
Well, in the beginning, it was simply cold calls. Now, because of the lack of time, I try to pave the way with a telephone call beforehand. But if I were starting all over again, I'd probably use my head more than my feet, maybe try to pave the way a little bit, but I would still make the calls. Call them cold, call them whatever you want to, I'd still make the calls.
Okay, thank you. This gentleman back here, I guess.
Yes, Ben. Glenn Walker, El Paso, Texas. You mentioned that your goal this year was $100 million. Now, I'm not sure we have that much in force in all of El Paso, but my question was, what are your goals from here on? Where do you want to go from that point?
I don't really know at this moment. We set the goal for the year. we know what we want to do for this year. I do know that things are getting bigger. People are beginning to realize that life insurance can serve in many, many ways. It's nothing but systematic accumulation. Either it creates or it accumulates. You might say it does both. So where am I going to go? I really think that instead of writing the $100,000 case, you'll begin writing bigger cases and bigger cases and bigger cases. And we're beginning to work with $1 million premiums, which maybe is today like trying to get a $1 million policy was 10 years ago. But there are companies that do have problems big enough to require that sort of money. And so I guess it's just in the way we learn, equip ourselves, grow, you might call it, develop, and the field in which we're working, and what it is that you're trying to help a man accomplish. Just keeping together. How simple this is. Just keeping together what a man spent all his life putting together. Isn't that worthwhile?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. This gentleman here.
I'm Abdul Ali Motani from Ottawa, Canada. Ben, would you please tell us what was your largest case and what was your most difficult case and how did you handle it? And what was your biggest death claim that you settled? And if at all you used that occasion to generate more insurance from the same family or from the same company? I'll appreciate if you'll just answer these questions. Thank you.
Would you repeat the questions? One at a time. The first one? Largest sale.
What was your largest sale?
Okay.
The largest sale may strike you as odd. I've never made a big sale. No. The way a case gets big is it grows, and you make repeat sales. I've never made a great big sale, like $30 million, $20 million. No. Cases get to that point after a while because they grow. People get older, too, and after a while they quit growing. You can't write anymore. So I've never made a great big sale, sorry to say.
Okay, the second part.
The second question, what was your most difficult case and how did you handle it?
The most difficult case, I'd say, is the one I'm on now. And how am I trying to handle it? I'm working on it.
Next part.
And the next question is, what was your largest death claim that you or your company settled? And did you ever use that occasion, sad though it was, to generate more business from the same family or from the same company?
I've had one large death claim. Not out of that, I've had almost very, very little. They say if you insure with Feldman, you live forever. I had one large death claim that occurred quickly. It occurred within a period of maybe 5 years. It turned out the man had cancer. We paid a $2 million claim. That was the only large claim we had. Did I get more business from this company? Ironically, I didn't. There was one man that remained. And I tried to get more business from him. I said to him, you should keep on paying the same amount of premium you've been paying. You're better able to pay it now than you were before. We've paid you $2 million. You know what happened? Who mentioned something about an auditor? The auditor came in and said, you can't afford to do that. He did, he really did. And you know what? While we was fiddling around, the man had a coronary. And so, no, I didn't write any more business in that company.
Thank you.
Maybe thanks to my being less aggressive than I should be, or thanks to an auditor. don't be afraid to push a little bit. Step on some toes if you have to.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Ben, what about the largest amount you have on a single life? Maybe that might answer what he's asking for.
Well, I currently have, or will have on one man's life shortly, $50 million.
Ben, is that whole life? Is that whole
That's
life?
all whole life.
Ben, Mike Monahan from Dayton. Of all the whole life that you write, approximately what percentage of it do you finance in any way?
Of all the whole life I write, approximately what percentage do I finance? Originally, none at all. But in the last few years, in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, if a case gets set up for premium payment, just a monthly or quarterly or an annual premium payment, there's no financing. If there are large amounts of insurance, in the last few years, I've gotten into, and maybe a lot of you have too, into making up computer printouts, where you pay like the first 5 years, not the first 4, maybe the first 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes it goes as far as 7. Pay them in full, no loans, no nothing. And then, using dividends for additions, you make a loan on the contract in the amount, the face amount of the addition. Going back to basics, if you had a dividend, $1, they bought a $3 addition, you made a loan on the contract of $3. You never disturb the face amount of the policy. You do reduce the cash value of the policy, but you never reduce the face amount of the policy. And then you run a projection on this contract, probably a 25-year projection. And this premium, if it were, let's say $30,000 to begin with, for the first 5 years, depending on the man's age in that category, you'd probably reduce your premium to less than $10,000 for the next 20 years. And at the end of the 25 years, you would have paid 5 premiums, $30,000 a year, it's $150,000. And you would have paid 20 premiums, $10,000 a year, that's $200 more. Add them together and you got $350,000 paid in premiums. If you look at the cash value of the contract, it will exceed the total paid in premiums. And the face amount of the contract started at $1 million, still $1 million. And he's 25 years older. Think of it. Still $1 million. Now, how much did you pay in? Your total paid in premiums amounted to 35% of the contract. You think you'll ever pay in the amount the company's someday going to pay out? Never. You know what that is really? It's just proper use of the dividends, and then it's making Uncle Sam pay part of the premium. Because there's an interest factor, because you're making loans, and you're taking a tax deduction on the interest. So you're making Uncle Sam subsidize. Someday we may get into trouble doing that. And he may also make us pay tax on the increment building up inside the contracts. But currently there's a lot of this being done, where you can show a man that for the first 5 years my premium's like any other premium. But beginning with the 6th year, my premium goes down, down, down to where it's a third of what we started with. You know what you do at that time? Remember I said something about repeat sales? I suddenly found $20,000, didn't I, to do something with. He was paying 30, now we're down to 10. We got $20,000 more. We can plow into that program to expand his program. Maybe I can add another block of coverage. This is the paperwork that goes with taking care of your clients.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, Walter Mintz from New Jersey. Could you please tell us how you prepare for and deal with medical underwriting and substandard issue problems?
Oh, boy. How do you deal with underwriting? Well, I find if I get a policy back that's rated, right away I'm in a problem. Because I made a standard presentation. I didn't know the man had something wrong with him. He knew it. I didn't know it. 9 times out of 10, he knew it. Maybe he was on medication of some sort, but he didn't tell me. I didn't know it. Nevertheless, when I come back, I've got a rated contract. I asked the man if he was aware of so-and-so, whatever it was. I tell the man, we have a very special option in our contract that may eliminate the bulk of your rating. And again, it's a paid-up addition. It's a paid-up addition. Now, the paid-up addition on the contract, which is about 3 times the dividend on the contract, if you make a loan on the contract in the face amount of the paid-up addition, you may reduce your premium maybe by part or all of the rating. That's one way. Another way is I broker a large part of my coverage because I found that a lot of other companies and other underwriting committees, in viewing the same medical requirements, simply don't view it the same. And company A over here might be willing to issue on a much better basis. But it gets you into a lot of paperwork and a lot of fooling around and a lot of presenting your case here and presenting your case there. I think with New York Life, we've got good underwriting, but I think they're also very conservative, ultra-conservative. And Stan and I are going to try to change that. Don't know whether we'll get it done or not, but we're going to work on it. But there again is the question, what do I do with a rated case? I try to justify the rating. I try to, being basic, show him that we can use some of the equity built up in the contract, take it out. If he's rated, he should be more interested in face value, not cash value. Take some of the equity out. That reduces the premium to where it should be. So to speak, that eliminated your rating. So you've got to understand these contracts, what you can do with them, work with them. You can show a man. So that $30,000 premium come back and it's $40,000 a year. Well, the reason it's $40,000 a year is because you're not so good on the inside. Something wrong. One, you should know about it. If you don't already know about it, the odds are you do know about it. And 2, we have a method of maybe reducing your premium back down to the 30. We'll take some of the dividend, convert it to paid-up additions, make a loan on the contract equal to the face amount of the paid-up additions. That may reduce the premium back down to where it should be. Or you might just use it for whole life additions, which I find not too many companies have. That adds enough to the policy. Instead of buying $1 million policy, maybe you bought one that really amounted to $1.2 million, which again makes that premium become a standard premium because you got more coverage.
Ben, Peter Taylor, Auckland, New Zealand. How do you handle the man who says, I don't mind if I pay estate tax, there will still be plenty of assets left for the family. I started with nothing, and I don't believe in making things too easy for my children.
If I have the question, if I started with nothing, and I'm not going to make it too easy for my children, am I correct?
Correct.
May I ask for whom you've been doing what you're doing?
Next, Mike.
Ben, I'm Leslie Sequeira from London, England. I have sometimes a problem in preparing a case for a corporation where I have the presentation based on the lives of 4 directors of a company. Up comes one director occasionally who says, why write the business in the name of the company? Why not in the personal names of the directors and make them pay the premiums, as then the proceeds would benefit their families? Now, it's always better to write the business in the name of the company because that way one gets 4 lives covered. And one would like to write, of course, individual cases at a later date. Now, how would one handle that particular problem?
Ron, would you repeat that for me, please?
Well, if I understand it correctly, you have a corporation with a board of directors. Do they own the company?
Yes.
Okay. 4 people own a company and they're incorporated, and he's wondering, should they buy it personally or should the corporation own it? Now, I don't know what your tax laws are. Maybe that's a question that, maybe it's not a fair question to ask.
Well, you know, who's got the money to pay the premiums?
The company.
The odds are the directors don't have any extra money. I'm willing to use your money. I don't have any. I'd like to use yours. If you're the corporation, let's use the corporation's money. They don't have money, they'll go borrow some, or they'll do whatever they have to do to get the money. So that we have a plan like this where we have a contract that you write $1 million contract with the corporation paying the premium and using dividends for additions. The corporation will recover the amount of money they paid in premiums plus $500,000. The other $500,000 will go to the director's family, but for which he has to pay what we call a tax on some accumulated income, PS 58 cost. But he gets a lot of money for very little money. So basically, back to basics, we use the corporate dollar. We use the corporate dollar because that's the only dollar that's available to us.
Thank you.
Okay. Where was it? This young lady right here.
Mr. Feldman, Kelly Kusenberry in Austin, and I've been discussing a problem with June Milam, and we didn't come up with solutions. She said to ask you. I've been working with some very old people that have very large estates. Due to the last 10 years, they've all gotten gas wells. These people, honest to God, don't know what to do with the money, and they're just putting it in the bank. The attorneys they've had work on these estates are sorry, and I have nothing personal, and I know that they're good attorneys, but prime example is my uncle died in November, and I have not been able to get a door open to an insurance agent, and one of the things that the attorney knew he had done was to buy government bonds out of a joint account. Now, obviously, in community property state, half of this was my aunt's and not his at all. And the second thing was never taken into consideration that now that has a stepped-up cost basis. And that she can't afford to sell him from an income tax basis to pay the taxes now. And he was a perfectionist. And if his estate is in this bad a shape, I know the rest of the people in this community are even worse off. And how can I get my foot in the door? Because at this point, I have a credibility gap.
Well, it sounds like you have that kind of a case that's very complex, very big. By that, there's a tremendous amount of potential there. But with all due respect, I think if I were you, what I would do is in your own hometown, there must be some sophisticated agent that's gotten his foot stubbed, toes wet a time or two.
Yes, I've been working with my general agent, who's a 15-year MDRT member, and we have been doing work together down there, but we have just not satisfactorily got our foot in the door.
Anybody here want to help her?
I'll do this. If you want to put in letter form all the facts in your case, all of them, everything, don't leave anything out. I'll do this. I'll send you a letter telling you what I think should be done and why. You go over that with your agent down there, and you see what you think you should do after that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Van Simons from San Clemente. Do you find yourself writing a higher volume of pensions in the last few years as part of your total volume?
Doesn't do pensions. You don't.
No, I haven't written the pensions since I don't remember when.
After you've gotten the man to realize he has a need, how do you determine the amount of the need if you don't do any estate planning?
Well, you know, it's up to you to determine. See, you know the tax table, and you know whether he owes money. If you don't, boy, you better find out. And you know that if he's in business, the status of the business, is there cash flow? It's up to you to pretty much determine what should be there and what shouldn't be there. Two things I always do. One, I create enough money to pay the tax that has to be paid. Because it has to be paid. And I can pay it. I can pay it with discounted dollars. I do that. The second thing I do, I make sure the man's accustomed his wife to live on an income of $5,000 a month. That's what she's been accustomed to living on. He's been giving her $5,000 a month to run the family. I'll take $1 million and I'll put it into a graph at interest only, assuming a 6% return. It'll earn $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. For how long? Forever. Now I know, come what may, this man needs, one, enough money to pay the tax, whatever that is, and another $1 million. So you've got a good case going, maybe much bigger than that. In all my programs, I illustrate. I have a page that states, I pile everything up, and I don't put a value on the stock he owns or the land he owns or anything else he owns. I list it all, and I put down at the bottom, assume $1 million. Then I flip it and I say, now the tax on $1 million is, and I show him what it's going to be. And then I flip another page and I say, it's broken into two parts, half taxed in your estate and half taxed in your widow's estate. But the total tax will still be the same. They're going to take about half of it. So let me pay that. And then I have another page that reads, great big red letters, tomorrow. And I spell out, keep doing what you're going to be doing, your $1 million estate, which was $500,000 here down the road 10 years ago. 10 years from now will be $2 million, then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and I show the tax on the 2, and the 3, and the 4, and the 5. And suddenly, this little bit of insurance we were talking about, $200,000-300,000 that he needed today to pay the tax today, becomes trivial. Look at the problem tomorrow. You wait until tomorrow, maybe you can get it, and maybe you can't. And even if you can, you won't pay less for it, you pay more for it. You didn't get younger, did you? And so we open the door. We get into what we call repeat sales. If we don't do it now, we'll do it tomorrow. And the cases grow, and they grow, and they grow. There's an old saying, stay together and you'll grow together.
This gentleman over here, we're down to the last.
Yes, Ben, my name's Tony Cabellis. I'm from Bellingham, Washington. You made a statement a little while ago about coming out of a slump with a new idea, a simple idea. You got me curious as to how you formulate material into a simple idea. That's one part. And the second part is, do you have a problem with replacement? And if so, how do you handle it?
Well, how do you come out with a simple idea? You know, life insurance is simply marketing, and what you're marketing is a package. That box over there, that's a package. Or that jar of peanut butter, that's a package. And so you come out with a little different package. It can be simply the way you use the dividends in the contract, you let them pile up, or you use them in some other manner. Or for children, we got a special $3,000 package, a $6,000 package. Or my company now has a new plan. You know what it is? It's a $10,000 premium package. Yeah, I made up one the other day. It's a $100,000 premium package. And we're not talking about the amount of coverage. It turned out to be $3,900,000 and some odd thousand dollars. But it's a $100,000 premium package. Now, this man thinks in dollars, and $100,000. That didn't frighten him too much. So we're working with a $100,000 premium package. You want another package? We've got one. We don't live from year to year. We live month to month. Here's a little package, $1,000 a month. Let me show you. $1,000 a month. Let me show you what we can do for $1,000 a month. Sure, you need these little packages. On placement, the end of every month, we try to clean house on getting our cases for the month paid for. I find I can't carry them along because you just can't let them stay there and wait until someone says, yes, it's all right to go ahead. So at the end of the month, boy, we really try very hard to get our cases pinned down, to get our cases paid for. As I said earlier, we need $7 million more for the week, and we're going to get it.
Ben, Tom Blazek from Chicago. You've obviously made a lot of money in this great business of ours. What kind of financial advisors do you have, attorneys or accountants or whatever, insurance men? And two, what other investments do you make besides life insurance?
What advisors do I have? I have two auditors, one that comes in every week, one that comes in every month, and they kind of keep my books on the right track. What other investments do I make? A long time ago I found it was smart to make money. It was smarter to keep it. And you know, I found it was hard to keep. Uncle Sam's a great leveler. So I began looking for other investments. Naturally, some of the people I was calling on, they're looking for money. So I found some people in real estate. And they had some investments, real estate investments. So I got into a great big block of real estate because there was a lot of potential tax shelter there. I wasn't interested in the income. I wasn't interested in the tax shelter. But boy, I didn't know. And oh boy, we really got ourselves into trouble. And so I found I had to form a real estate company. In my youngest son, Marv, we have a real estate company that takes care of the real estate. Marv had to go out and get people, good, competent people, to run the real estate company. And I found that the real estate for a while, instead of giving me money, drained my money. But now it's all turned around. We have one block of real estate, produces about $1 million a year. And within a few more years it'll be paid for. We have a lot of real estate now, but boy, when you get into the other man's backyard, be careful, because he knows all about it, but you don't. But you don't know you don't know.
Okay, thank you, Ben. This gentleman right here.
Ivan Benjamin from London, England. Ben, if I recall correctly from a number of books of yours that I've read, you endeavor, I believe, to see about 40 people a week, and correct me if I'm wrong. Yet you are satisfied with 3 applications a week. Now, that doesn't seem many in relation to 40 calls. Now, of course, I'm aware not all those calls are selling calls. Can you possibly break down those visits into presentation calls, second or third selling visits, service calls, policy deliveries, etc.?
Break them down into what kind of calls? I would say one would be a definite appointment where I'm making a presentation. And I would say that maybe 2, maybe 3 more would be just where I'm trying to get a door opened. And I would say the rest, if whatever number they may be, you know, the day sometimes goes so fast, you can't make all the calls you planned on making. The rest are calls that you're just more or less trying to get acquainted. We have radio equipment in our cars, in our homes, in our office, that locks everything together. And if I'm going to call someplace, I can have one of my girls at the office make the call for me to find out, one, if the man's there, two, if he's available, if he'll see me. We've done all the things we can to try to save time. But I'd say that half the calls today are still, maybe a third of the calls today are still calls where you're opening cases. You're trying to open cases. You're trying to see people. And the rest of the calls, whereas you've got something going that's pretty definitive, or you have something in mind that you want to become definitive.
This young lady in center at the back, the last question.
My name is Michiko Naka, 大阪ジャパン住友生命です。少しお聞きしたいのですけども、日本の企業ではその系列会社や取引銀行によって保険会社が決められていることが多く、通訳がいます。
Interpreter will wait, Marshall will interpret that.
もう一度言います。日本企業ではその系列会社や取引銀行によりまして保険会社が決められていることが多くて、当社がその企業に入り込めないことがあって困ることが多いのですが、アメリカではどうでしょうか。それともう一つ、ベンさんは飛び込み契約と紹介契約とのどちらの方が多いでしょうか。それと契約なされるまでに何回ぐらい訪問なさいますか、お聞きしたいと思います。
Excuse me, no, this is an international organization. That young lady is from Japan. She has an interpreter, and I hope he repeats the question.
My name is
Try to cut it a little shorter.
Naka, and I am from Osaka, Japan. This might be a situation very peculiar to Japan, but well, I am with the Sumitomo Group, and in Japan it's very difficult and sometimes maybe even impossible to sell life insurance to companies which they have a lineage in which you can find that it's related to another life insurance company. So although there are many companies, because they have a lineage which the roots go to another insurance company, it's very difficult to sell. Do you have this problem here in the United States, or are there similar problems? Are there problems like this in other countries? And if yes, how do you resolve this problem?
Well, let me see if I understood properly. I believe what you were saying is that a man has allegiance to the company in which he currently may be insured, therefore doesn't want to see, hear, listen to, buy insurance from someone else. Is that the gist of your problem, your question?
Yes, there are many companies like parent companies and subsidiary companies, and when we follow the lineage, certain groups belong to a certain insurance company while another group belongs to another. And it's very difficult for another insurance company to go and try and sell insurance to a different lineage company.
You know, in your country, in Japan, ideas have made your company great. Ideas. People in your company, the business people in your country, the business people had ideas of what they could do. And they're doing it very successfully. And you know, I have ideas, and you have ideas for this man. Let's say he's not your client yet. Say he's a prospect, but you have an idea. Nobody will ever close their mind to another idea. And tell him, I have an idea. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you. I'll mail it to you if you don't want me to bring it to you. It's an idea. Ideas make the world go round.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think what you have witnessed here today, and I know Marshall will have a word or two, is that possibly that Ben has shown you that nothing is impossible. He is just proving that impossible means it hasn't been done yet. And Marshall, what do you think of the last bit?
I'd just like to say that we've had a man here who
is worth tens of millions, who earns millions plus a year, makes cold calls. And I guess if he can do it, you can do it. And on top of that, he's also told us one other thing. It's making the calls that make the business. But most of all, I think we all owe him an incredible debt of gratitude that he has been willing to sit here for 2.5 hours.